Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 10, Drunk. Xiao Jiming gathered his cloak around him as he stood under the lantern. Zhao Hui stood guard behind him and said, considering the hours, he should be back by now. The man who went to pick him up said that the second young master had left by himself on his horse. Why isn't he here yet? Xiao Jiming let out a breath of cold air and looked at the sky in silence for a moment. He said, whenever he's unhappy in the past, he would go galloping on horseback at the foot of Hanjian Mountains. This habit hasn't changed. Zhao Hui said, at the very least, the imperial army is opposed. Xiao Jiming shifted his gaze and asked, do you know what father regrets the most in his life? Zhao Hui shook his head honestly. Xiao Jiming said, it's that he has fathered yet too late. 3 years ago, we were ambushed at the foot of Hanjian Mountains. Before father's reinforcements arrived, Ye led the 20 members of the cavalry that had been originally assigned to guard him and rode his horse across the Hongjiang River at night. He groped around in the quagmire for half the night and burned Biancha's grains. When I saw him, he was smelly and dirty all over as he soaked in the dirty water until the wounds on his legs festered. That year, he was only 14 of age. I asked if he was afraid and he answered that he had a great time. Father often said that the Lu clan are the eagles of the desert while the Xiao clan are the dogs of Liege. I don't like this choice of phrasing, but we are like chained dogs every time we deploy troops from that time onwards. It's no longer as satisfying as it was over 10 years ago. Battling all these years has long drained the valor in me. The members of the Xiao clan are not dogs, but the only one left today with the nature of the wolf is Ye. What he yearns for in his dreams are the mountains of Liege. And yet, he now has to stay in the Chu capital and forget about the freedom of riding horses. Father and I have both let him down. After a moment's silence, Zhao Hui looked at Xiao Jiming and said, there's no need for Xiao Shisui to put yourself down. The second young master is impetuous by nature and is not the best choice of person to lead and continue the legacy. It doesn't matter if he's born earlier or later, the reins of Liege must not be handed over to him. The commander-in-chief must have the tenacity of one shaped by experience, and a willpower as unwavering as a rock. The second young master is not up to it. Xiao Jiming did not say another word. The strong wind that night sent the lantern swinging ceaselessly. Master and servant waited for a little less than an hour before they saw someone urging the horse on towards them from a distance away. Xiao Shisui. The man on the horse tumbled off and said, something happened to the second young master. Zhao Hui immediately held up his blade and said, where is the second young master? Asterisk asterisk asterisk. An hour earlier. The squad commander shoved a shackled Shenzhequan down the stairs. Sing. The squad commander egged him on from behind. Quick, sing a few lines. Shenzhequan did not utter a word as he looked at the man squatting under the shadows of the wall. His chest hurt the moment he saw the gerfalcon. He could not help but purse his lips into a tight line as he stood where he was. Xiao Qiye said, come over and stand here. Shenzhequan exhaled a breath of hot air and slowly shuffled forward to stand a short distance away from Xiao Qiye. Xiao Qiye rose to his feet and asked, who is your mother? Shenzhequan replied, a dancer from the Duan province. You know how to sing a tune, right? Xiao Qiye's gaze was so terrifying that it made one felt flustered. Old dog Shen didn't teach you anything, but someone must have taught you something. Shenzhequan lowered his head to evade his gaze as if he was afraid of him. He said, I don't know how to. Lift your head. Xiao Qiye pushed aside the lantern with his foot. Or are you afraid of me? Shenzhequan could only raise his head. He caught a whiff of wine. Xiao Qiye said, it's fine if you don't want to sing. Find something for me. Shenzhequan spread out his palms to show that he was still being chained. Xiao Qiye frowned and said, just look for it like that. So, Shenzhequan squatted down and grabbed a few handfuls of snow. Xiao Qiye stared coldly at the top of his head and said, "Stand up again." So, Shen Zequan propped himself up with his hands on his knees and stood up. Xiao Qiye said, "You can squat down and up freely, and your legs are unaffected. Were the Jin Yue carrying out the floggings too considerate, or is a worthless life easier to sustain? Naturally, it's because a worthless life is easier to sustain." Shen Zequan said in a muffled voice. "How lucky for me. That makes little sense." Xiao Qiye pressed his whip against Shen Zequan's chest. "That kick was meant to end this life. Your martial arts skills are pretty good." This whip gave Shen Zequan the chills. He cowered from fear and said, "I'm just hanging on to my last breath. Second young master is righteous. Why make life difficult for a nobody like me? This matter has already come to such a point and I've gotten what I deserve. Please let me off." Xiao Qiye asked, "Do you truly mean that?" Shen Zequan had already been reduced to sobs. He nodded his head vigorously. Xiao Qiye retracted the whip and said, "You can say anything, but who knows whether or not they are true? How about this? Bark a few times like a dog. Once I'm satisfied, I'll let you off tonight." Shen Zequan said nothing. The squad commander was scared witless by Xiao Qiye's eyes and shoved Shen Zequan a few times. The color drained from Shen Zequan's face as he said timidly, "At least let me do it before you alone." Scram. Xiao Qiye kept it short and to the point. The squad commander instantly felt relieved and said joyously to Shen Zequan, "Scram. Let's us scram now." Xiao Qiye's cutting gaze fell upon the squad commander's face. The squad commander went weak in the knees. He pointed to himself and said, "Me, just me? Sure. Sure thing." Gritting his teeth, he curled up into a ball and rolled a few rounds in the snow before standing a short distance away. Shen Zequan coyly shifted a little closer and whispered into Xiao Qiye's ear, "Even if you let me off, will I let you off?" Bits of snow suddenly flew up as Xiao Qiye gripped Shen Zequan's arm and pressed it down forcefully. With a sinister expression, he said, "Showing your true colors now, huh? I was wondering what's with this helpless and pitiful act you are putting on." Both men suddenly toppled over onto the snow. With his hands dangling from the handcuffs, Shen Zequan kicked Xiao Qiye in his lower abdomen and scrambled to prop himself up. "The imperial decree stated that I am to be confined, yet the Xiao clan dares to defy the imperial edict, wanting to take my life. After tonight." Xiao Qiye dragged Shen Zequan towards him by his shackles. Shen Zequan knocked hard against the ground and yelled through clenched teeth, "You all in the Xiao clans are accomplices in defying the imperial edict. My death is not to be regretted, but the imperial army will all die with me tonight." Xiao Qiye clutched Shen Zequan's throat from behind and forced him to raise his head. He gave a few short laughs and said harshly, "Do you think of yourself as a golden child? Die with you? Are you even worthy? Killing you is just like pulling weeds." Shen Zequan's breathing was strained. He suddenly looped his shackles around the nape of Xiao Qiye's neck and summoned all his strength to wrench the latter to the ground. Xiao Qiye was caught unaware by this move. As he raised his arms, Shen Zequan kicked him in the chest. Both men instantly tumbled upside down. "Killing me is just like pulling weeds." Shen Zequan bent his head and stared into Xiao Qiye's eyes, finally meeting him eye to eye amidst the chaos. He said in a hoarse voice, "You've missed the opportunity. It remains to be seen who will be the hound and who will be the hare when the time comes. Whoever dares to help you in secret." Xiao Qiye's intent to kill had been ignited. "I'll kill every one of them once I dug them out." The squad commander was scared to death by this sudden change and rushed over to stop them. "Your Excellency! Your Excellency mustn't kill." "That's right." Shen Zequan snapped. "The second young master wants to kill me tonight." "Shut your trap." Xiao Qiye made a sudden move to gag his mouth. Who would have known that Shen Zequan would open his mouth to clamp his teeth down hard on him? He pressed down on half of Xiao Qiye's body, having already bitten through the skin and flesh of the web between Xiao Qiye's thumb and forefinger. Xiao Qiye said in a cold voice, "Do you think you can cover it up by making a scene and acting shamelessly? Your martial arts prowess is by no means average." The squad commander could not stop them, and so he hurriedly called for help. "Pull him off, quick." Blood was oozing out between Shen Zequin's teeth, but still, he refused to let go. Xiao Qiye had already sobered up by now. He grabbed and lifted Shen Zequin by his back collar and flung him away. The pain from where he was bitten had started to penetrate to his consciousness. Yet it was Shen Zequin's eyes that were vividly seared into Xiao Qiye's memory. "Second young master!" Zhao Hui shouted on horseback. Xiao Qiye turned his head and saw his elder brother on horseback, too. The latter had already dismounted and was hurrying towards him. Right at that very instant, he felt ashamed. It was as if someone had peeled him bare off his skin and battered him back into his worthless original self. Xiao Jiming went down on one knee and Shen Zequin immediately let go. The skin between Xiao Qiye's forefinger and thumb were quite torn and the teeth marks on it were deep. "Why are you fighting?" Zhao Hui followed closely behind and saw his wound. "Lock him up," Xiao Jiming said in a deep voice. Zhao Hui picked Shen Zequin up and headed inside. "The second young master is drunk." Xiao Jiming looked at the squad commander and said, "Don't let what happened tonight get out. I will personally make an apology to His Majesty." The squad commander kowtowed to him several times and repeated, "I'll leave the arrangements to Xiao Shisui." Xiao Jiming stood up. Zhao Hui had already thrown the man back into the temple. On seeing this, he said to the squad commander, "It has been hard on our Imperial Army brothers tonight in sending the second young master back to the residence all safe and sound. It isn't easy to stand guard on a winter night. I'd like to invite all of you for a drink of hot wine. I hope the gentleman here will not turn this invitation down." Not daring to say no, the squad commander tactfully agreed. Only then did Xiao Jiming look at Xiao Qiye, though he remained silent. Xiao Qiye did not even wipe away the blood on his hand. He wanted to say something, but then he saw that his elder brother had already turned around to mount his horse. "Degur!" Xiao Qiye called out to him in a mutter. Xiao Jiming heard him, but he only spurred his horse on and left. End chapter. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 11, New Year. Shen Zequin's shackles were removed. He moved his wrists as he listened to the squad commander grumble on and on. Ji Gang pushed the wheelbarrow and swiftly finished unloading the wine for the Imperial Army. With a coarse cloth wrapped around his head, he shifted over to them. After ordering Ji Gang to finish tidying up the courtyard before spring, the squad commander went outside again to instruct the squad on guard duty that night not to spread word of the incident. "Are you hurt?" Ji Gang pulled Shen Zequin's arm. No. Shen Zequin raised his hand to wipe the nape of his neck, where Xiao Qiye had left strangulation marks. He called out, "Shifu." Ji Gang asked, "Where does it hurt?" Shen Zequin shook his head. He considered it for a moment, then said, "His external martial art is strong and fierce, and his fists and kicks are powerful. It feels familiar to me." Ji Gang's burned and disfigured face looked astonished. He said, "Our Ji clan boxing style has never been imparted to outsiders. I didn't dare to counter his moves the moment he struck." The taste of blood seemed to linger in Shen Zequin's mouth. He licked the edges of his teeth with the tip of his tongue and thought for a moment. He said, "I was afraid he might get an inkling of it, so I did not dare to go all out. It's just that making a scene and playing dumb could not deceive him either. Shifu, why does he hate me so much?" Teacher spoke of the current political situation. "Aren't those relatives of the Empress Dowager with her at the lead the ones he should hate the most? That brat is drunk," Ji Gang said with loathing. "And bullies always pick on the weak. So, he could only pick on you." Shen Zequin shook out his left hand. He was looking for this. Does Shifu recognize it? Lying quietly on his palm was that aged and worn-out bone thumb ring. Those with impressive arm strength in the army often use large bows and must wear these kinds of thumb rings when they are pulling the bowstring. Ji Gang scrutinized the thumb ring and said, "This kind of wear and tear is most likely from drawing the Liege cavalry's great bow of heaven. However, this second young master Xiao is not heading into war. So, what is he wearing this for?" *******. Xiao Qiye slept in silence. It was Lu Guangbai who woke him up. "You were really a piece of work last night." Lu Guangbai did not hold back. He sat on the chair and said, "You have only just gotten a post and you have already gone and looked for trouble. I just saw Jiming leaving the residence earlier to head for the palace." Xiao Qiye's throat felt uncomfortable as he lay covered under the quilt. He said, "I drank too much. In a few more days, we will leave the capital." Lu Guangbai said in all earnestness, "You can't continue drinking like this. What are you going to do if you drink until your martial arts skills are rendered useless and your body collapses?" Xiao Qiye did not reply. Lu Guangbai continued, "They devastated your elder brother's heart at the banquet last night, so you should show him some understanding. He is busy with Liege's military affairs and at the same time, concerned about your sister-in-law. Moreover, he now has to leave you behind here. He feels terrible. Ah yeah, who doesn't speak highly of him before others? But all of them hope that he will never come back again every time he sets off for battle. For these people, he has to lead the troops to the battlefield year after year. He won't say it himself, but he's made of flesh and blood. So, how would it not hurt him?" Xiao Qiye lifted the quilt and let out a long sigh. He said, "Do I not understand all that you have said?" "What do you understand?" Lu Guangbai threw the tangerine in his hand at Xiao Qiye and said, "If you understand, then get up and apologize to your eldest brother." Xiao Qiye caught the tangerine and sat up. Lu Guangbai looked at the bandaged wound on his hand and could not help but laugh. Sitting on the chair, he ate the tangerine and said, "Why did you provoke him? You just had to go and get yourself bitten before you are satisfied." "I told him to sing a tune," Xiao Qiye said. "But he said I wanted his life. How is this guy a pushover?" "You are no pushover either to start a fight with a confined prisoner on the street." Fortunately, Jiming reached in time. Otherwise, there will be another uproar in the city again today. Lu Guangbai asked, "Are you badly hurt?" Xiao Qiye raised his hand for a look and said in irritation, "He's born in the year of the dog." Xiao Jiming came back only in the afternoon. Zhao Hui followed behind him and saw Xiao Qiye waiting under the eaves. "Degur," Xiao Qiye called out. Xiao Jiming took off his cloak and Zhao Hui took it. The maidservant came over, carrying a copper basin in her hands. Xiao Jiming washed his hands and ignored him. Zhao Hui looked back at him and said, "Second young master, aren't you going for the Imperial Army investigation today? Go get the Viceroy token and come back for dinner tonight." Xiao Qiye said, "I'll go if my elder brother tells me to." Xiao Jiming wiped his hands and finally looked at him. He said, "I didn't tell you to go last night but you still went ahead, didn't you?" Xiao Qiye said, "I ran in the wrong direction. I had meant to return home." Xiao Jiming placed the handkerchief back into the copper basin and said, "Go get the token, then come back for your meal." Only then did Xiao Qiye leave. ******. Since the Imperial Army was dismissed from its duty of guarding the capital, the former office had fallen into a state of desolation. Xiao Qiye spurred his horse over and saw several men in short jackets secured with waist sashes sitting around basking in the sun chatting. Their idle and lazy looks had none of the valor one would expect of an army. Xiao Qiye dismounted his horse. Carrying his whip, he strode into the courtyard. There was a bald pine tree standing in the courtyard, with the accumulated snow casually shoved into a heap. No one removed the icicles hanging on the eaves of the veranda, and from the looks of it, the tiles on the rooftop were due for a redoing too. They were really poor. Xiao Qiye continued to scrutinize the surroundings. The paint was already peeling off the plaque. He went down several steps to the main hall. Then, lifting the curtain with his whip, he bent over slightly to enter. The men sitting around the stove cracking peanuts inside immediately turned their heads over to look at Xiao Qiye. Xiao Qiye laid down his horsewhip on the table and lifted over the chair to sit down without standing on ceremony. He said, "So, everyone's here." The people around him all stood up with a clatter, stepping noisily over those peanut shells under their feet. Most of them were over 40 years of age from old military households. Having muddled along in the imperial army for such a long time, they had no other capability to speak of, except for being adept at acting shamelessly to extort money. Seeing Xiao Qiye now, their gazes sized him up and down before they exchanged sneaky looks at one another with ulterior motives in mind. "Second young master." One of them wiped his hands on his robe and said with a smile, "We have been waiting for you to collect the token today." Xiao Qiye said, "I'm here now, no." "Where's the token?" The man said smilingly, "We waited for you this morning, but you didn't come, and the Ministry of Works were urging us to get to work, so Assistant Commander Chao took the token first to deploy the men. He will be back late. Once he's back, I'll send someone to deliver it to your residence." Xiao Qiye returned his smile and said, "And you are?" The man said, "Me? Just call me Lao Chen. I used to be the company commander of this city's company. Master Huashizan recommended me for a promotion, so here I am now in our imperial army." "That's weird." With one hand on the chair's handle, Xiao Qiye leaned his body to the side and looked at Lao Chen. Right below the viceroy should be the Imperial Guard's regional vice commander. How did it end up in the hands of an assistant commander? You aren't aware of it, but... When Lao Chen saw Xiao Qiye listening attentively, his body, which had been bent over in a bow, straightened up imprudently. The Zongbo's troops were defeated last year and the grains from Jin province could not be shipped over. That led to an emergency of food shortage in the Chu capital. The bureaucrats from the Ministry of Personnel could not afford to pay out yearly salary, and so they cut the staff in the Imperial Army office by half. At present, we do not have a vice commander. The closest is Assistant Commander Chao. All that's left are just the few of us. "So, you're saying," Xiao Qiye said, "that anyone can get their hands on the Viceroy's authority token? Our usual practice in the past was to just take the token and go. The Ministry of Works' tasks can't wait, and it's all lifting lumber to the palace. We are in a humble position and our words carry little weight. We can't afford to offend anyone. We don't have a choice." Lao Chen started pinning the blame. "If you think this is against the rules, you have to make it clear to the Ministry of Works. I'm a legitimate viceroy with a token of authority." Xiao Qiye said, "Why do I have to explain myself to the Ministry of Works? The one in command above the Imperial Army is the Emperor. It was on account of camaraderie that the Imperial Army helped the 6 ministries out in the past without settling accounts with them when they wanted our help. But whoever wants manpower from today onwards, if they can't give a proper explanation of the tasks involved and a clear accounting of the schedules, then they better not count on the deployment of my men. You can say anything you want." Lao Chen and the others began laughing. He said, "However, we aren't in charge of patrols and defenses now, we are errand runners and odd job laborers. We could still prove ourselves useful by helping out at the 6 ministries. Besides, His Majesty the Emperor had never said a word about this over the past few years. Second young master, having money in your pocket is not as good as having friends in the imperial court. You lived in Liege in the past, but the situation of the imperial army differs from the armored cavalry of Liege. Some things simply won't work here. Moreover, our imperial army is no match for the 8 great training divisions." "Who?" Xiao Qiye stood up and said, "Who did you say recommended you for a post here?" Lao Chen's expression glowed as he straightened his back. How he itched to repeat it out loud thrice. "Master Huashizan. You know him too? He's the Empress Dowager's grandson of common birth. He's third young Miss Hua's." With a lift of his foot, Xiao Qiye gave him a kick. Lao Chen was still speaking with a glowing face, and the kick caught him off guard and sent him toppling over and crashing into the table and chair. The teapot smashed onto the ground, splashing tea all over the floor. It startled Lao Chen back to his senses, and he trembled as he crawled and kneeled on the ground. The loafer raised by a concubine from the Hua clan. Xiao Qiye swept aside the peanut shells on the table. "He used to carry my boots in the past. What kind of influential backer do you think he is? At best, he's just a small potato. I want the viceroy's token of authority. Instead, you tell me the rules. Are you so blinded that you can't even tell who I am? From now on, I'm the one who has the final say in the imperial army." Lao Chen propped himself up with his hands and kowtowed to him. Having received a rude awakening, he hurriedly said, "Second young master, second young master. Who the fuck is your second young master?" Xiao Qiye's eyes were piercingly cold. "As the Imperial Army Viceroy, I'm your master who is in control of your life. Putting on airs before me and pretending to be some local ruffian? The Ministry of Works needs manpower for manual labor, and the men deployed are all from the Imperial Army. If there were no money exchanging hands in between, then would you have found it worthwhile for you to throw yourselves at their feet? Everyone at the bottom is working themselves to their deaths, but you sure have kept yourself fat without lifting a finger. What? Huashizan said he would protect you, and you really think of yourself as having the death exemption golden token in your possession? I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare." Lao Chen shuffled a few steps on his knees and said, "Your Excellency." This humble servant was spouting nonsense. "Half an hour," Xiao Qiye said. "Authority token, register of names, and 20,000 soldiers. I want to check them all. It's fine if one is missing, you gentlemen can just substitute it with your heads." Lao Chen hurriedly rose to his feet and dashed out. *******. The various generals left the capital a few days later. Emperor Xian led hundreds of officials to send off Xiao Jiming. He coughed intermittently as he held Xiao Jiming by the arms in the heavy snow. "Jiming." Emperor Xian was wrapped in a cloak, and yet he was still frightfully skinny. He said, "We can only meet again next year once you leave today. It has been restless over at the Liege frontier." Although the Bianchi cavalry had been beaten to withdraw, they still refused to bow and submit to Zhen. The rapacious ambitions of the 12 tribes are crystal clear for all to see. "You are my trusted official, and also a valiant general of the Great Zhou. You must be cautious in everything you do. We came to your Majesty's rescue late this time, and yet your Majesty still showed favor to us. Both father and this humble servant feel stricken. As long as your Majesty gives the command in the future, Liege will surely risk life and limb for your Majesty." Xiao Jiming said. "Ever since your father fell ill, he has not met with me for many years." Emperor Xian slowly turned his head back and gazed at the masses of human heads within the city gates. Then he looked at the magnificent palace that had towered over the Chu capital for 100 years. He said softly, "I've let all the loyal soldiers who have lost their lives on the battlefield down with the way the matter of the surviving member of the Shen clan played out. But I have been on my sickbed for such a long time, and there are too many matters where my hands are tied." Xiao Jiming followed his gaze. After a while, he said, "The wind and snow are raging in the Chu capital. Your Majesty, please take care of your health." Emperor Xian slowly released his grip on Xiao Jiming's hand and said, "My good son, go." Lu Guangbai spurred the horse out of the city. As expected, he saw Xiao Qiye waiting alone at the pavilion at the foot of the mountain. He remained on his horse as he whistled at Xiao Qiye from afar and said, "Brat, we are leaving." Xiao Qiye led the horse and said, "Storms are rife in the martial fraternity, a vessel dreads its captain abandoning ship. You must be careful. Just say it if you have something to say. Why recite a poem?" Lu Guangbai laughed heartily. "Just wait. You will eventually be able to return home one day. That depends on fate." Xiao Qiye smiled, too. The sound of horse hooves rang out behind them. Lu Guangbai looked back. The horse rider coming towards them in the snow was dressed in a simple old robe and had black hair tied up in a high ponytail. Lu Guangbai quickly turned his horse around and shouted, "Commander-in-Chief! Let's leave together." Qizuyan slowed down. She was dressed light in an overcoat and an old outer robe while carrying a long sword on her back. If one were to look at just her appearance, then she could have been merely an ordinary woman in the martial fraternity. It was only after the wind passed that her face crystallized into a surprisingly lovely face. "That horse of yours is second-rate." She raised her eyebrows and smiled, instantly showing her might. "It can't catch up with mine, can it?" But Lu Guangbai liked it. He said, "It isn't as agile and brave as the commander-in-chief's steed, but it's a good boy that has survived the battlefield. Let's have a race and we'll find out if it can keep up or not. Now, that one over there looks rare to me." Qizuyan raised her chin at Xiao Qiye. "Swap with me." Xiao Qiye stroked his steed's mane and said, "No, thanks. No matter how I look at it, I'm the one losing out." Qizuyan raised her hand and threw an object to Xiao Qiye. Xiao Qiye caught it with both arms. It was an unusually heavy executioner's blade that was still in its sheath. Before the new year, Liege raised a batch of fine battle steeds for Qidong, and the credits go to you. That thing was forged by the best craftsman in my account books. It cost me a lot of precious materials." Qizuyan said, "How about it? Not losing out now, huh?" Xiao Qiye weighed it in his hands and laughed. He said, "Commander-in-Chief, from now on, you're my dear Jija. The blade I brought from home might be good, but it's too light. It's not as smooth to wield as this one." Qizuyan said, "Jija? Wait till you unsheathed the blade and you'll be calling me Yai." Xiao Qiye asked, "Has this blade been given a name?" "I did think of one." Qizuyan said, "He who speaks of the ruthlessness of the wolf is himself insatiable and ruthless. Isn't that just perfect for you?" But Lu Guangbai said, "The word ruthlessness is a little too fierce. He's just fierce." Qizuyan flung the horsewhip out with a crack, and the steed under her saddle instantly galloped away. Without looking back, she said, "What you'd want for a man of Liege is precisely for him to be fierce." The main army on the other side had already started moving. The red tassels from the sea of spears of the Qidong garrison troops followed closely behind Qizuyan and surged towards the wilderness in the east. Lu Guangbai did not linger. He waved his hand at Xiao Qiye, then spurred his horse on to catch up with them. The next moment, Xiao Qiye could hear the armored cavalry stomping across the ground. It almost seemed as if the earth beneath his feet was quaking slightly. Xiao Qiye looked out into the distance and saw his eldest brother in the lead. Like a wave of black tide, the familiar armored cavalry of Liege swept across the snowy plains and galloped north. The gerfalcon broke through the wind to chase after them. It hovered in the air over the armored cavalry of Liege and screeched. Xiao Qiye stood clenching his blade, watching on as the armored cavalry of Liege vanished amidst the boundless sea of snow. Shenzequan's mind was wandering and Grand Tutor Qi knocked him back to his senses. Now that the various generals have returned to their positions, the Chu capital has once again lapsed back into a stage of impasse. With his hair all disheveled, Grand Mentor Qi craned his neck and looked at Shenzequan. "You don't have much time. You can't keep on being willing to remain a trapped turtle in a jar. They are the butcher knife, and I'm the meat on their chopping board." Shenzequan looked up and said, "Teacher, do I really still have a chance to leave this place? Fortune and misfortune are interdependent." Being confined is not necessarily a bad thing. Grand Tutor Qi opened the gourd stopper and took a few gulps of wine. It's easier to lay low and bide your time if you remain behind closed doors. You will have plenty of opportunities in the future. The palace bell tolled in the distance. The new year had begun. End chapter. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 1, I Was an Outcast Liege. Chapter 12, Dragon Boat Festival. 8th year of the Xian era. Midsummer. The round-collared robe of the Secretary of the Ministry of Revenue, Wang Xian, was drenched in sweat. He sat uncomfortably on the chair as if he was sitting on pins and needles. It was not the first time he had raised his wuxia hat to wipe his sweat. Your Excellency Xiao, Wang Xian hemmed and hawed. It's not that the Ministry of Revenue doesn't want to allocate the funds to you. It's just that the expenditure of the Treasury has yet to be tallied, and Pen Gong up there has not given his endorsement. There's really no way we can allocate you the sum. It takes time to work out the accounts. Xiao Qiye held up the teacup to take a few sips. Am I not waiting here right now? Take your time. Wang Xian's throat throbbed. He looked at Xiao Qiye, who was as cool as a cucumber, and at the Imperial Army standing still on the veranda outside. Your Excellency, Wang Xian said almost pleadingly. The weather is hot, and I feel really bad letting the soldiers stand outside. Let me invite the various gentlemen for some cold drinks. The ice in reserves. We have not made any contribution to deserve it. Xiao Qiye smiled superficially. Our Imperial Army are sturdy and burly men who deal with manual labor. So, what's the harm in standing for a few hours? Pay it no mind, Your Excellency. Focus on your accounting. Wang Xian grasped the account book. For a long time, he could not bring himself to lower the brush. That had been the beginning of spring, and the emperor was seriously ill. For this reason, the Empress Dowager instructed men to carry out large-scale construction in the palace to build a temple so that she could chant the scriptures to accumulate blessings for him. The Ministry of Works, having received this assignment, had to receive large quantities of lumber from Duan province. To save money, they ordered the Imperial Army to transport them. The Imperial Army transported the lumber into the Chu capital, but the Empress Dowager withdrew her plan to build the temple upon receiving Secretariat Elder Hai's memorial against it. The Ministry of Works was thus short of this sum of money on hand. For 2 months, they had dragged this matter on, delaying settlement of payment to the Imperial Army. Money was in short supply. If this had been a time where the state treasury was full, then this matter would not have been an issue at all. Who would be willing to offend second young Master Xiao for such a small sum? But right now, the Ministry of Revenue was suffering themselves. Last year, they had spent almost $1 million for the Empress Dowager's birthday just by hosting the banquet and giving out monetary rewards alone. Wang Xian set aside his brush. He might as well stick his neck out. He thus spoke, Your Excellency, there's no way the money can be settled now. To tell you frankly, the expenditure at the end of the year doesn't match up to our budget going by the current calculations. Even our salaries might not necessarily get paid out. We really have no money. Even if you give me, Wang Xiaochang, a sword wound today, there's still nothing I can do. The salaries and provisions of the 8 great training divisions are paid out as usual without delay. But when it comes to our Imperial Army, you are always desperately broke. We are all officials serving the emperor. It serves me, Xiao Xian, right to be so lowly that all I can do is to hold on to this debt and wait for you people to have enough money to pay us. Xiao Qiye threw the teacup onto the table with a clatter. The Ministry of Revenue cries about being poor every year. But what has it got to do with me? Pay up and we'll work. It's all down in black and white. Once we are done with our tasks, you have to settle the payment. Don't talk to me about anything else, those aren't my responsibility. If all the problems of the Ministry of Revenue have to bank on is the understanding of others, then what else is there for you people to do? Vacate the position earlier and let someone else take over. His words turned Wang Xian's expression livid. Wang Xian stood up and said, since we are all serving the emperor, then why does your excellency have to push us into such a tight corner? Who would be unwilling to settle the payment if we have the money? If the imperial army is so capable, then why do manual labor? Go serve as the 8 great training divisions, too. We'll see who would still not dare to pay up. Just as the atmosphere was turning hostile between both parties, a man outside the room lifted his robe and strode in. There's no need for your excellency Wang to get angry. The second young master is just being a forthright man speaking his mind. He took off his Jiang hat, wiped his hands with a handkerchief and said, this humble one is the chief supervising secretary from the Office of Scrutiny for Revenue, Shueziaozuo. I'm here regarding this account. The chief supervising secretary of the Office of Scrutiny for Revenue was merely a 7th grade position. By all reasonings, it would not even be considered an official in the Chu capital, but this one was special. Not only could he supervise the work progresses of the various ministries and yamen, he could also participate in the reviews and appraisals of the officials' virtuous achievements that took place every 6 years at the Chu capital's Chief Surveillance Bureau. Furthermore, he could sidestep the 6 ministries to submit a memorial directly to the emperor himself. Wang Xian could not afford to offend him, so he swallowed his anger and rolled along with it. He said, how would I dare to get angry? The imperial army has done so much. I, myself wouldn't want His Excellency Xiao to have worked for nothing. But Yanking, take a look at this account. The Ministry of Revenue can't afford the funds at all. Shueziaozuo's courtesy name was Yanking, and he looked particularly scholarly and refined. Without looking at the accounts, he said to both men, I'm aware of the Ministry of Revenue's difficulties. Second young master, how about this? Quan City supplied us with a batch of silk a few days back. We'll have it converted into cash and settle your account with the same number of silk. Does that work for you? As soon as Xiao Qiye left, Wang Xian's expression turned cold. He said to Shueziaozuo, is he even asking money for the imperial army? I'm sure it's more like he's taking it for himself to squander away. Ever since the second young master took up the post of Imperial Army Viceroy, he has been leading a life of debauchery all day long. Every time, he coerces us into a corner. He's not in the least bit sympathetic. Shueziaozuo smiled and said nothing to continue the conversation. Xiao Qiye left the Ministry of Revenue office and mounted his horse to head for Donglong Street. He was obviously taller than he was 5 years ago, and the drive and vigor that could be seen in him in the past had somewhat diminished. Prince Chu, Liege had been waiting for him for an entire morning. On seeing him, he hurriedly said, where the heck have you been? The anxiety is killing me. Fooling around. Xiao Qiye sat down and gulped down the cold drink. On seeing the basin of ice in the inner part of the room, he stretched out his limbs and lay down on the arhat bed. He said, this is so comfortable. It's so hot outside it makes my head spin. I'm going to sleep for a while. That won't do. Liege waved his bamboo fan vigorously. With his clothes spread open, he sighed. Wait for me to finish saying my piece before you sleep. Xiao Qiye had been up to something at night, and so he was unbearably tired and sleepy at the moment. He let out an absent-minded hum. Liege took a sip of the iced wine with his pampered, delicate hands and said, do you still remember that woman I told you about the last time? It's the one I kept 5 years ago in my manor and was prepared to take her as mine. But that son of a bitch Xiao Fusui took her and gave her to Pan Rugui, that castrated bastard. Xiao Qiye uttered an "oh." Liege said with even more gusto, a few days ago, I went away to avoid the summer heat and saw her again around the manor. That little lady has kept herself so smooth and tender. She looks even more lovely than she was 5 years ago. My heart goes into overdrive just by looking at her. How I hate those eunuchs. Thieving son of a bitch wrestled away my love by force and broke up a potentially good marriage. He thinks that's the end of it? No. Xiao Qiye yawned. Liege Unhung fumed, are you my friend or not? You have to help me think of a way to fix him. We can't touch Pan Rugui, but Xiao Fusui needs a thrashing. Xiao Qiye was truly tired. He said, how? Drag him out of the palace. Liege Unhung pushed aside the delicate concubine waiting on him and shut his fan. He said, the Dragon Boat Festival is just around the corner. His Majesty wants to go to Ziwan to watch the dragon boat race. When the time comes, Pan Rugui will no doubt go along. If he follows, so will Xiao Fusui. When the directorate of the imperial stables are racing horses, we can lure him out and beat him to death. Xiao Qiye seemed to be asleep. Seeing his silence, Liege Unhung said, "See Ian, are you listening? It won't do to beat him to death." Xiao Qiye said with his eyes shut. If Pan Rugui comes to hate you because of this, all you'll be having in the future is trouble. Resentfully, Liege Unhung said, then we can at least give him a beating, right? If I don't vent this anger, I won't even be able to eat. That being said, what's up with you lately? You always look exhausted. What have you been doing at night? Why did you send away the virgin I picked for you the last time? Xiao Qiye said nothing more as he waved his hand to indicate his awareness of Liege Unhung's words. There was no bone thumb ring on his thumb, but the teeth marks on the web between his thumb and forefinger had left scars. Liege Unhung went on to speak about something else, but Xiao Qiye turned a deaf ear to it all. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. It was the Dragon Boat Festival a few days later. Emperor Xiand, who had not held court sessions for a long time, braced his sickly body and moved to Ziwan in an imperial carriage. The imperial concubines accompanying him all donned muslin clothes, while Jilei and the commander-in-chief of the 8 great training divisions, Shiguan, escorted the emperor. The imperial army had free time, so they summoned Xiao Qiye over as well. By the time Xiao Qiye arrived, it was already full of people. Emperor Xiand finished sticking in the willow and was waiting for the directorate of the imperial stables to start the horse race. The court of imperial entertainments, which was also part of the retinue, served sticky rice dumplings and pastries near the seat. Liege Unhung stayed on the prince's seat and waved his hand at Xiao Qiye. Xiao Qiye threw his horsewhip to Chenyang behind him and entered his seat while undoing his arm guards. Still weighing the bamboo fan in his hands today, Liege Unhung said, "How come you've just arrived now? The anxiety is killing me." Xiao Qiye replied, "You're anxious every day. Are you really all right?" Liege Unhung fanned himself and said, "I'm just used to saying it. Look, see that? Xiao Fusui is serving over there." Xiao Qiye looked and saw Xiao Fusui beaming as he spoke beside Pan Rugui's ear. He said, "Don't charge up later. Just get someone to beat him up." An hour later, Xiao Fusui stepped at the edge of the latrine pit. He was preparing to relieve himself when everything went black before his eyes as someone threw a sack over him. "Et!" Xiao Fusui shrieked, wanting to shout, but someone dealt him a punch so hard that he saw stars. On seeing the sack, Liege Unhung lifted his robe without demur and kicked him. Xiao Fusui, who was covered with the sack and gagged, could only groan in pain as he writhed on the ground. The race ahead was at its most crucial juncture right this moment, so no one heard the sounds. They beat up Xiao Fusui for a little less than an hour, but before Liege Unhung could vent all his pent-up anger, Chenyang stopped him. Chenyang shot a glance at the guards from the prince's residence behind him, and they quickly lifted the sack and darted off. "Your Highness," Chenyang said, "he will die if you continue beating him. Perhaps next time." Liege Unhung pulled on his robe to adjust it. He took 2 looks at Chenyang and asked, "Where are you going to throw him?" "The Viceroy has ordered us to throw him in the woods beside the lake. Once the banquet starts later, All the serving eunuchs will pass by and he will then be freed of his bindings. Li Jianhong spat at the spot where Xiao Fusui had rolled about earlier and returned to his seat. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. By the time the banquet started, Li Jianhong had already forgotten all about him. Xiao Qiye kept his eyes open as he looked over at Pan Rugui, but he did not see any signs of Xiao Fusui. Li Jianhong picked up the dishes with his chopsticks and said, "Most probably, he found it humiliating and ran back to change his clothes." Eunuchs like them who serve the emperor fear getting dirty and disdained by their master the most. Do you want to go to my manor for a few days later to have some fun? I can let you see the little lady too. Xiao Qiye drank the cold tea and said, "I'm busy." Li Jianhong let out a he and said, "You still want to put on an act before me? You, busy? The imperial army is almost on the verge of getting disbanded. What's there to be busy with in such an idle position? Busy drinking." Xiao Qiye laughed, too. Those eyes of his stared at the tea in his hand. His side profile looked a tad flippant. "Once autumn arrives, it'll be the inspection. It's only by treating others to some wine that I can secure this idle position." Being human, Li Jianhong pointed at him with his chopsticks and said, "Is to treat yourself as if you are living a life of luxury and to live life as if you are whiling the time away. What did they say about the Pan Rugui and those relatives of the Empress Dowager? Aren't they tired of fighting one another to the death? What's the joy in that? Yeah." Xiao Qiye's smile grew wicked. "Isn't that just making yourself more stressed and vexed? Having fun is still the most gratifying." Li Jianhong looked at that gaze of his and smiled, too. He said, "So what's with the censorate? Who dares to deny my friend his post? You were personally appointed by His Majesty. We are loafing around on imperial orders. How about this? Before autumn, I'll host a flower appreciation feast at my residence. You go ahead and invite them all. There's no need to hurry." Xiao Qiye surveyed Ziwan and saw the hall of the Temple of Penitence at the corner of the rising and falling tiers of eaves. He frowned and said, "This place is pretty near to the Temple of Penitence. You're still thinking about it, huh?" Li Jianhong said, "That thumb ring has been lost for so long." Xiao Qiye stroked his thumb out of habit. "That last member of the Shen clan has been locked up for 5 years, and there has been no news of him. His Majesty has never even asked if he has died or gone insane." Li Jianhong said, "If the one imprisoned inside was me, I'd have gone crazy in just half a month, let alone 5 years." The skin between Xiao Qiye's thumb and forefinger ached. He had no wish to bring up that man. Just then, the sound of drums rose by the side of the lake. Li Jianhong threw aside his chopsticks and rose to his feet to urge him on. "Let's go." The dragon boat race started. They are certain to bet money on it. Xiao Qiye was about to get up, but then he saw Ji Lei hurried his way through the crowd and leaned over to Pan Rugui to say something to him. Pan Rugui suddenly turned his head over for a fleeting instant. And then he slapped down heavily on the table. Xiao Qiye immediately looked at Chen Yang behind him. Stunned, Chen Yang said, "Vice. Your Majesty." Ji Lei was already kneeling before the emperor. He spoke in a clear voice. "I'm afraid it's not possible to go ahead with the dragon boat race. This humble subject led the Jinyi Wei on patrol earlier and we unexpectedly fished out Xiao Fusui, who was on duty in the imperial palace, from the water." Emperor Xian coughed violently and Pan Rugui stepped forward to stroke his back. It was only when Emperor Xian's coughing eased a little that he asked, "What is he doing in the water?" Ji Lei raised his head. One could not tell if he was looking at Emperor Xian or at the Empress Dowager. He said in a heavy voice, "He drowned." A commotion rose from the entire seat of imperial concubines as they used their silk handkerchiefs to cover their mouths. All at once, Li Jianhong knocked over the teacup on the table. He picked it up in a panic and looked at Xiao Qiye. "I was merely saying it." End chapter. Notes. 1 Wuxia had, or black gauze hat, is the headwear of Ming dynasty officials, consisting of a black hat with two wing-like flaps of thin, oval-shaped boards on each side.